Today I wanted to touch on escapisms. I wanted to talk about what escapism means to me, what it could mean to you, what is an escapism, and what are you escaping from? We deal with escapism literally every day. I know I do. I feel like I have learned quite a lot about the subject. I really like to look into it. I feel like when you have a better understanding of how your brain works, you have a better understanding of your life, a better grasp of your life. Once you know why you're doing what you're doing, it just makes sense. When things make sense, I feel like you can put it into the conscious level of awareness, and if it is affecting your life, hopefully move past it. In my personal opinion, I think the word has been demonized to an extent. The definition is the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant activities. So this could be your favorite pastime. This could be a hobby, a phone, video games, reading, painting, any of that could be considered an escapism. However, there are a more negative side when we talk about escapisms, and these usually can spiral into addictions. But the definition of addiction is to become physically or mentally dependent. It's a compulsive need to engage in behavior. So that just means you have no control over it. I just wanted to preface by saying I'm not qualified, but I have definitely had my own experiences. The negative ones are usually ones that are very damaging to your health or damaging to your goals, your mental health. Now, it's always positive to get your mind in a flow state, but first I wanted to say everything is needed in moderation, no matter what it is, because when things are overdone, that's when the joy is sucked out of them. And trust me, I have had my own experience with that. When you overdo something, everything's peaks and troughs anyway. You're not going to enjoy everything constantly. But when we overexhaust these things, it doesn't give us time to cherish and appreciate it. So even though the flow state is an amazing place to be, sometimes just take a step back and think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I enjoy it? Or am I doing this because I don't want to deal with what I'm going through right now, no matter what it is? The present isn't always a nice place to be. This could be impacted by world views, world events, personal experiences, just an attitude or an outlook. Sometimes there's just things in your life that need to be acknowledged. The present needs to be acknowledged. So escapism isn't always a good thing. Even if it is a good hobby, it isn't always the best choice. Again, this is coming from experience. This is not coming from a place of judgment. I think there is a forgotten gift of living in the present and just soaking it all in, because the only moment we have is right now. So make sure to stay aware. And also, times are forever changing, and you're not going to keep up if you're ignoring it. It's not even just to keep up with the times, it's just to enjoy what you have right now. The present might not even be as bad of a place as you think, and because your mind is so cluttered, have you ever had an issue and then you write it down and it's just not as big of an issue as you thought it was at all? But because your brain is so overstimulated, you can't even string together what your problem is. So just get it out of your head. If you get it out of your head, then you can usually come to a solution which you might not have seen before, or you might just look at the problem and go, oh, it wasn't actually that big of an issue. With the amount of distractions and opportunity we have to keep our mind stimulated all the time, it is a privilege, and I think it should be treated as such. When you are in a mindset of being grateful, it can really make you appreciate these things more. Even if you're doing something you don't enjoy, gratitude is a great practice. It's a high vibration. If you don't believe in all that, logically, it just brings you to a nicer place, and it brings you to the awareness of the privilege you do have. Because I feel like sometimes we forget what we have. Cherish these privileges. Don't let them lose their value. Everything's needed in moderation. Everything. Quite literally everything. Another thing is, when we do overload our brain on these activities, if you are going through something difficult and the present is a bit of a hard time to manage, overloading your brain with dopamine and stimulant makes the present even harder to manage, because if your dopamine levels are up here from the escapism, when you're forced to face reality is down here. I think a good example for this one is our phones. It's so easy to just scroll through. You literally have everything at your hand, at your fingertips. Puts a high expectation for what reality is. If you don't experience reality enough, you can't make it yours. So change takes acknowledgement. If there is something in your reality that you did want to change, it needs to be acknowledged to be changed. You know, you can't change something if you don't know where you're going or you don't know the position you're in now because you're not aware. If you do believe in manifestation, mindset, law of attraction, if you're into all that, overindulging is a scarcity mindset. It's not living in abundance. You're living as if you're never going to get these things again. So that's what you're attracting into your life. If you need everything now, or you can't stop what you're doing, you're the headspace of, I'm never going to have this moment again, but you will. And if you do take everything piece by piece and everything in moderation, you will attract more because you're living in the headspace of, I have enough and I know more good is coming for me. So that's one thing that kind of helped me. That was one little, like, I don't know, it just kind of hit me one day because I was definitely overindulging in certain aspects of my life. And yeah, it's sort of just the thought of, you will get it again, no matter what it is, your phone, food, even alcohol, substances. If you keep acting as if you're never going to experience these things again, there's other things in your life you might not experience because you're acting in a mindset of scarcity. Just soak in the moment, no matter what it is. Even if you are still doing your escapism, just step out and go, and just appreciate what you've got and appreciate what you're having, because I feel like sometimes we look too far in the future or we're always looking back in the past, and the only moment we have is now. So appreciate the now. And also, if you are escaping just boredom in itself, you know, silence is an incredible place. Boredom is productive. Boredom is where the best ideas and inventions, everything comes from. Mostly all of these things come from boredom and silence, because this is your thoughts. You aren't being externally influenced by anything. So just take the time to think of your own ideas. Even your own starts in life can be fed by all the external influence. So to find out who you truly are, moments of boredom and moments of silence are needed. They're needed, 100% they're needed. When you're bored, as much as it's uncomfortable, your brain is figuring out things to do, not just in the physical world of, oh, I can go on my phone, I can eat, I can drink, I can play my games, or I can do this and the other. Your brain is wiring its own ideas and its own thoughts, and this is how new things come into reality. And our brains only have so much capacity. So if you are filling it with whatever you're filling it with, you're not going to have any room to sort out your own life and determine who you are, or determine what you stand for, or for any new creative ideas. Boredom is where your imagination and your consciousness are used. So these are just truly your thoughts from the soul, and this is a gift. Consciousness is a gift. We are the only creatures with it, and from everything we've done so far as humans, and that's the only thing that differentiates us from animals, it is a gift. So use that gift as yourself, not the influence of others or what others have created, because even games and alcohol, these were all created. You know, don't take their influence. Just sit with yourself and think, who am I? What can I create? And what can I do? What do I want to do? You're not giving your brain enough room to grow if you're filling it with things that it just doesn't need to be filled with. And like I said about escapism, some of them are good. This is not me saying that all of them are bad, but even the good ones, even a hobby, I'm not saying these activities itself are negative, but it's just, are you doing it for the right reasons? Because that's when things, you know, take a different shift in your life to what you wanted it to be. Even the activity could be very productive, but you could be using it to be unproductive because there's other things that you're avoiding. I feel like a good example of this one is exercise. As much as exercise is an incredible thing, I feel like sometimes I had issues that I had to face, and I would just go to the gym so I'd feel like I was productive, even though I had different issues I needed to face. You know, nothing is going to get fixed if it is just avoided. Nothing. Change takes acknowledgement. Every sort of change. If there's anything you want to change, a good way to start the change is just to acknowledge and sit down and go, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I want to do, or this is what I don't want to do. I looked at this study on how to stop touching your face, because I used to touch my face so much, don't ask. Anyway, and the solution was, you just have to track when you do it. So this just doesn't go for that. This goes for anything. If you just track when you do it, you will stop doing it just because you're bringing it to your awareness. You're bringing it to your awareness. Finances as well. Don't ignore them. Don't ignore them. Just look, if you are having issue in any area of your life, it takes just acknowledgement is the first step. Acknowledgement is the first step to change, and the present must be acknowledged. So just look inwards. What are you not willing to face? What are you escaping from? Because I promise you, we are the creators. There is always a possibility of change. Always a possibility of change, but it has to be acknowledged. Even if there are things just triggering us, our triggers teach us what we do and don't stand for. They teach us how to grow. Shadow work's a good thing, just journaling, writing down why you feel a certain way, what it is that's affecting you. And I promise you, that's where most of you comes from. Most of you comes from your triggers because you realise, oh, this isn't what I want. Oh, I wish I had this. Jealousy, any negative emotion can stem from a positive one. You just have to see it from that perspective and know the changes you need to make in yourself. They help us become the best version of ourselves. You just need to acknowledge them. I promise you, they're not as bad as you think. There's a saying which is negative emotions push us through the doors that we were too scared to open. So sometimes there is just things that are needed, but they are needed to be faced because they will just carry on. It will just carry on if you just don't acknowledge it. Your life will stay the same. Sometimes we think these emotions are very negative, even boredom, but in reality, it's just uncomfortable. And uncomfortable just means unfamiliar. So you haven't done it a lot of times. If you're comfortable, it's usually familiar. It's just habits and what you have repeated throughout your life. That's when you feel most comfortable. When you feel safe. And unfamiliarity is, in our brains, unsafe. We are hardwired to think familiar is safety. You know, even back in like the prehistoric times, if something was repeated, it was safe because, you know, it's tested and tried, it's been done. But that's just the way our brain's wired, not the way our soul is. When something is repeated over and over again, even if it is negative, it makes our brain go, this is comfortable, this is safe, even if it's damaging. And that's how the addiction starts. So that just means addiction is our body's way, our brain's way of just getting through that specific moment because it's comfortable. So if you just get through that moment, as tough as it may be, it will end. That pain and that uncomfortability will end. And the only reason why it feels so uncomfortable is because you're not familiar with just sitting with yourself. To make them feel familiar and safe, it needs conscious effort because your brain is wired for these things to be safe, but your soul wants something different. Your brain is only an organ. It does what it is designed to do. So if you want a change to happen, it takes that conscious effort and that conscious realization of it might not be comfortable at first, but you will make it comfortable. It's just a feeling. It's just a feeling, and I promise you'll get over it. And it's a very brave thing to do, and bravery feels like fear, so it feels uncomfortable, but in reality, it's brave. Whatever you're doing, no matter how small it is a brave thing to face being uncomfortable. So brave. That's just the first step. It's just the first step to a whole new life. A whole new life. So just make it comfortable. Addiction is just the circuits in your brain have been hijacked. It's just because you've done it so many times and because you're so used to it, your organ thinks that this is safety, but you know in your soul that it's not. My main quote from this is listen to the soul, not the body. Don't listen to the brain if it is in this situation. Sometimes listen to your body, you know. If you have health concerns, it does need to be listened to. But if there are things that are damaging you, even if it is, like I said, a positive escapism, or one that isn't well known, because I feel like I, in my life, have faced some things, I wouldn't say addiction, but it was definitely more harm than good, even though it was just a mundane task. And I'm not talking about your passions. If you have a passion that keeps you going and is fulfilling you and fulfilling your life, and you know you're financially dependent on it and all these things, go for it. This is what we were made for. If you know what you're made for, go for it. But you know yourself and you know your own intentions. So just reflect and go, am I doing this for me, or am I doing this because I don't want to face what I'm going through? So when I say as well, it takes conscious effort, don't wait for motivation to arise, because it is very rare that the motivation arises in the first place, and it's even rarer for it to stick around to make an impact on your life, which you want. The only time this really happens is a life-altering event, and I don't think you really want to wait for one of those to happen. So just make the change now. You know, make the change today. Every time you do something which makes you uncomfortable, you're checking a point of, this is a person I'm becoming, and then you will become that person because it will be familiar. And then that's just your life. It doesn't feel uncomfortable. It makes you fulfilled. And then because your soul is agreeing with it, you're fulfilled. You're fulfilled. We have the gift to override instinct. Just give yourself a moment in reality and you can make it yours. I promise you. Thank you so much if you did get this far. If you have anything else you want me to talk about, please let me know. I'm open to all ideas. I have so much to talk about. I have so many other ideas I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I'm not qualified, but I feel like I have gone through enough life experience and just soul searching. So if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to help. I love talking about these things. I love soul searching, journaling. This is literally my passion. So if you have any questions about today's subject, last videos, or anything you want me to talk about in the future, please let me know. That would be much appreciated. But thank you so much.